Thousands of people are under evacuation orders right now in California thanks to a new wildfire. The Hughes fire impacts both Los Angeles and Ventura counties, burning more than 10,000 acres. It's currently about 15 miles northwest of the city of Santa Clarita. Firefighters are working fast to contain it. Currently, though, at only 14% containment. People evacuating shared how fast the fire grew.
My neighbor and I had just walked around the lake, and I had just been home 2 or 3 minutes when she texted me, and I said, no, we just walked around the lake. There was nothing there. And I went outside. I looked down the street. I didn't see anything. And I went to the backyard, and then that's when I saw the smoke. And yeah, it was fast. I can't imagine going back to the neighborhood and not seeing my house there.
So hard for those people. You can't even imagine. More than 20,000 people are under evacuation orders.
Now, the world's largest iceberg has broken away from Antarctica and is approaching the British territory of South Georgia, home to large penguin and seal colonies. Fishermen and authorities are bracing for impact. Georgina Ranard reports.
This is the world's largest iceberg, and probably the laziest. For decades it loitered, stuck in Antarctica. But one day in December, A23A finally broke free. Now, captured in satellite pictures, it is speeding into Iceberg Alley, a place where icebergs go to die. But here, right in its path, lies the British territory of South Georgia.
I will take you out the door.
Ice is a way of life for sailors and fishermen there, but they can't ignore something the size of A23A.
There's an iceberg over that way. You have to have a very healthy respect for the ice, because if you don't, it will get you. It can come out of nowhere and you get something the size of A23 when it comes along and it deposits these thousands of tons of ice. They just kind of hang around the island, and it does make things a lot more tricky.
The chunks could also block coves where these go to feed, putting half the world's king penguins and millions of seals at risk. But in danger, there is opportunity. Last year, British researchers on this ship seized the chance to visit A23A.
It's a really amazing experience. It's unlike anything that I've ever seen before. You just kind of see a massive wall that is way higher than you are.
Now, it's really difficult to get up close to the world's largest iceberg, but I think I found the next best thing, and I have to handle these really carefully. But in here is water that melted straight off the giant iceberg. In this lab, scientists are finding out how icebergs affect the ocean's carbon cycle.
It's unlikely that A23A was caused by climate change because it calved a long time ago in 1986. But as climate change progresses and the ice sheets become more unstable, more giant icebergs will form. So being able to see icebergs like this giant iceberg and study them allows us to understand the impact that they're going to have on the ocean and everything around them, the wildlife, the islands, and kind of the Earth as we know it.
In South Georgia, the battle with the ice rages on. And there, on the horizon, the big one lurks, closing in on the fragile island. Georgina Ranard, BBC News.
Lots of people nowadays have security cameras as doorbells and around homes today, but one person we met saw this on her doorbell camera. Somebody in that mask holding a sign with a Bible verse on it. Our Aaron Jones hearing from the Carrollton homeowner tonight who has one very simple question. Why?
The Ring camera video has left her visibly shaken.
I'm scared to leave the house. I'm scared to be at the house.
Understandably, this Carrollton homeowner does not want to show her face, but tells us about what happened in her neighborhood near West Hebron Parkway in 121 last Saturday around 8 p.m.
My husband and I had gone out to dinner, and then we had stopped off at the store to pick up a Powerball ticket. And I was waiting in the car for him, and my Ring notification went off.
She says she saw a masked person in her driveway. The person walked through the side yard to her front door.
Person popped up on the video with that goat's mask on, and they were approaching my door.
She noticed the person pretended to knock and was holding a sign with a Bible verse on it.
It's about the end times. It's about Judgment Day. I freaked out. I mean, I was like, I couldn't even think of anything.
The homeowner called Carrollton police, but the person had already left. Police say a report was filed, but they found no crime had occurred. So now they're monitoring the situation.
It's really scary. I'm not aware of anything like this ever happening, and I hope they catch him.
On social media, posts about this incident have gained a lot of attention. The homeowner says if this is someone pulling a prank, she'd tell them.
A lot of people were saying that they would probably shoot the person. I wish it were fake because, it's really affected me.
Tonight, the homeowner tells us police will be patrolling the neighborhood. They're encouraging everyone to remain vigilant and report any suspicious activity.
A Chinese mine contractor has died during an attack in Afghanistan. The Islamic State group later claimed responsibility for the killing. Now, the Interior Ministry has said that the Chinese citizen was a business owner with a contract to mine in Afghanistan. The Chinese citizen was traveling in northern Takhar province bordering Tajikistan when he was killed by unknown armed men. The spokesman for provincial police said that the man was traveling for quote-unquote an unknown reason and without informing security officials who typically accompany Chinese nationals on trips in the country. A translator traveling with the man was unharmed. The Islamic State group's regional chapter claimed responsibility for the attack later on Wednesday. The attack seemed to be an effort to thwart Taliban government's efforts to project an image of security to encourage investment from Beijing. Despite lingering security concerns, neighboring China is emerging as a potential investment partner in Kabul. The regional chapter of the Islamic State group regularly stages attacks on civilians, security forces, Taliban government officials, and foreigners in Afghanistan. At least 5 Chinese nationals were wounded when gunmen stormed a Kabul hotel, popular with Beijing businessmen, in a 2022 attack claimed by the group.
The Sudanese Army and Rapid Support Forces RSF are battling near the Al Jili oil refinery, north of Khartoum. The army launched an offensive advancing toward the refinery, but has yet to take full control. Eyewitnesses described plumes of smoke blanketing large areas of Khartoum, with footage circulating on social media showing army forces taking control of the entrance to the nearby town. Simultaneously, fighting has erupted in the city of El Fasher. Earlier this week, tensions flared when RSF issued a 48-hour ultimatum demanding the army withdraw from its last stronghold in the area. Following the ultimatum's expiration, the Sudanese army responded with airstrikes targeting RSF positions, according to a military source.
The United Nations has warned that conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo has reached alarming new levels. A video shared by the Congolese government on Thursday showed its troops operating in areas around the regional capital Goma and the town of Sake. Fighting between the army and Rwandan-backed M23 rebels has intensified since the start of the year. The militant group captured the town of Minova on Tuesday, a key supply route to Goma, which is close to the Rwandan border. The UN says over 250,000 people have been displaced in the past 2 weeks as the M23 advances. Its DRC peacekeeping mission reports heavy clashes between the M23, the army, and other armed groups near Sake.
A federal judge in Seattle just signed a temporary restraining order blocking Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship that he signed on day one in the Oval. The federal judge in Washington state calling it a blatantly unconstitutional order. Lawyers representing the 4 Democratic-led states leading the lawsuit saying they're thrilled about this block.
We are thrilled that the court saw the seriousness and the urgency of the complaints and requests for a temporary restraining order brought by the state of Washington, Oregon, Arizona, and Illinois, and are thrilled that the judge issued a temporary restraining order directing the United States government to take no further action in enforcing and implementing the unconstitutional and un-American executive order attempting to eliminate birthright citizenship in America.
Joining me now, White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks and our Matt Rivers, who's along the border there in San Diego. Well, the blocking has begun. Mary Alice, let's talk about the reasoning the judge gave for blocking Trump's order.
Yeah, it took him only 25 minutes as the judge was appointed by Ronald Reagan, and he basically laughed the Trump team out of the courtroom. He said, "I have difficulty understanding how a member of the bar can state unequivocally this is a constitutional order. It boggles my mind." Of course, the legal experts I talked to leading up to this hearing agreed. They thought this would be shut down, stopped immediately. Look, there's long-standing legal precedent around the 14th Amendment, and especially the way that Trump wrote this EO. Legal experts told me that the fact that they included people, mothers who are here legally but temporarily, and their children, even that makes it harder for Trump to in any way sort of argue the legality of this executive order. Even some of the more fringe legal theories, perhaps suggesting he maybe would have had a case in court, really shot down by the fact that Trump went so sweeping in this executive order. Look, it's still possible, of course, that this makes its way through the Court of Appeals, that it is taken up. Of course, this first case in Seattle in a very sort of liberal, more democratic-friendly Court of Appeals system. But we don't know if it'll go any further, because this judge saying he thinks that it is just blatantly unconstitutional. Like you said, he thinks the matter should be settled, Kira.
Well, Mary Alice, Trump and his team knew this executive order would likely issue legal battles. So why did he sign it anyway?
He promised to. I talked to one legal expert that said maybe this was just red meat to the base. Maybe it was just trying to make good on a campaign promise. It now kind of punts the issue. I mean, there's always the chance that Congress wants to try to amend the Constitution. There's always the chance that Trump will now try to issue a more targeted or more limited EO, chip away at the concept of birthright citizenship. Perhaps he could get away with something much, much more limited in scope. But you're right. I think that a lot of legal experts and probably the Trump team as well knew that something so sweeping was going to be struck down, but he was trying to make good on a campaign promise. And it's interesting, of course, in this bigger conversation about immigration. This is a part of, I think, Trump wanting to look so hardline, so maximalist on the border, Kira.
On his first day as U.S. Secretary of State, former Republican Senator Marco Rubio told his new employees that their department will promote peace around the world.
Without peace, it is hard to be a strong nation, a prosperous nation, and one that is better off.
But avoiding conflict will be a strategic decision.
But never at the expense of our national security, never at the expense of our national interests, and never at the expense of our core values as a nation and as a people.
Rubio also met Tuesday with the foreign ministers of India, Australia, and Japan. The four countries formed the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, or Quad, a bloc that aims to counter China's economic and military ambitions in the Indo-Pacific region. Tuesday's gathering eased some concerns about the America First approach under President Donald Trump.
It's a clear signal that U.S. is not abandoning the regional coalition, allies and partners in terms of how to counter China's rise.
Beijing denounces the Quad as a Cold War construct.
Anytime that the U.S. aligns with its allies and partners, the Chinese will feel isolated and feel threatened, and they will accuse the United States of the Cold War mentality.
The analyst pointed out that China's modernization and expansion of its military and nuclear arsenal will only continue driving countries in that region to strengthen their own militaries and seek a closer alignment with the United States. Verónica Valderas Iglesias, VOA News, Washington.
Put Vladimir Putin on notice today with a social media post threatening tariffs and sanctions on Russia if a deal to end the Ukraine war doesn't come soon. It's the latest example of how the new president is making his presence felt around the world. One of Trump's first executive orders froze almost all foreign aid for 90 days, but that act did not freeze aid to Ukraine.
I wish President Trump and all of America success. Ukrainians are ready to work together with Americans to achieve peace, true peace. This is an opportunity that must be seized.
Russia is not the only country facing tariff threats from the president. He also plans to put duties on Canadian and Mexican goods beginning on February the 1st.
Well, the fallout from President Trump's executive orders continues on Capitol Hill. Yesterday, House Democrats said the president should be focusing on, quote, real issues that Americans are facing. Some of the most heated criticism has been on Trump's decision to pardon and commute sentences for more than 1,500 January 6th protesters.
How on earth will Americans feel safer if the president rewards lawbreakers who assault police officers by setting these criminals free?
President Trump put the presidential seal of approval on political violence, so long as it supports him, and even if it's directed against law enforcement.
President Trump defended his decision to grant the pardons, calling many of the sentences, quote, ridiculous and excessive.
All right, Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shabbat, Hashem, Rachak, Wadaj, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders, a great millstone, peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, wherever you may be, wherever you may be. Shalom, Yasharallah, Shalom, right back with another world news with commentary. We're just going to speak briefly, more so I just want to read scriptures here. But, you know, Trump doing what Trump does best, which is throw his, threats around, which is nothing new, especially talking about Russia, talking about sanctioning Russia, this, that, and the third thing, about Ukraine and, making threats here, threats there, some threats, some of everywhere. Talking about Saudi Arabia, about dropping the oil prices, OPEC. Saying that he thought they were going to do it before the election or something like that. But yeah, I guess you can call it a threat too. And talking about buying, American goods and, all these different things, which we can, speak more so deeply on what he spoke about. But I just want to hit the scriptures real quick. As a matter of fact, let's just grab a certain portion here. Here we go. Let's start right there. Revelation 18:7 says, how much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously. Who are we talking about? Babylon the Great, which is where? The West, America. All right. So much torment and sorrow give her. For she said in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow and shall see no sorrow. All right. And you can see, you can actually, in a sense, see the pride of America oozing through Trump. All right. Like, just notice how Trump carried when Trump is in office. He carries himself like he is the champion of the world. Like, like he just, I don't know, he knocked out Rocky Balboa. All right. If he dies, he dies. All right. Drago. Okay. And that is the American pride oozing through his veins. Okay. And it says, therefore shall her plagues come in one day. All right. So, off of that one verse, which that links up with Isaiah and other chapters, but, the Obadiah, one of those major ones, all right, even though it's only one chapter with ever so many verses, all right. But the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, all right, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, all right. Babylon, okay. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord power who judgeth her. And ultimately, how is he going to judge her? If you're speaking on the final destruction, then it's through the other heathen nations, man, by launching nuclear missiles on this place. All right. 200 million as prophesied about, recorded in the book of Revelation by John the Revelator. Right. It says lament for Babylon. All right. Cry, wail. Right. And the kings of the earth, meaning these other heathen nations. Right. 17 in total, 18 nations in total, but we're talking about the heathens. So in total, there's 17 heathen nations. Minus America, 16. So we're talking about the other 16 nations, right? And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her. With who? With Babylon, the 17, all right? What makes up the number of 17 of the heathen nations, all right? Shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. Why? Because she destroyed now. The cash cow is destroyed. This is the place that got them a lot of business, a lot of money, a lot of trade deals, cargo and things of that nature, trade by sea, all right? The merchants of the earth. That's what they cared about, the business that they were able to do, because America has so much import of goods from other countries. This is made here, there, and everywhere, which is something Trump's also talking about. American-made things and, you know, American-bought goods and all these things. Making America great again is what he's boasting, right? So it says, standing afar off. Why are they standing afar off? Because after this place was torn up from the inside out, the troops withdrew and they went back home. So they're standing afar off because they're back home in their own nation now, for the fear of our torment. What's the torment? The nuclear missiles coming. Saying, alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. In 1 hour it's going to take for the Lord to destroy this place. All right, Joel 2 talks about those guided missiles, man. And the merchants of the earth, right, these other nations, right, the other 16, minus America, because it's 17, but minus America, the other 16 nations and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, like we just spoke about. Big talk, you know, with the threats on Canada. Talking about Canada, making Canada the 51st state. Threatening also Canada with tariffs. Mexico the same, threatening Mexico with tariffs because of the so-called border crisis, as well as talking about renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. China the same thing. All right, tariffs there. Russia, sanctions. All right. Always talking about their own allies, right, which pretty much mostly that NATO, right, their own allies, talking about their defense spending, all these different things. These are all a little catalyst to the allies, at least anyways, because not everybody we mentioned were allies, but the allies to turn against Babylon, all right? So it says, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. And that's one particular thing that he was talking about with Saudi Arabia, all right? Buying things from America. America made this, America made that, buy this, buy this, buy that. And if you don't do it, well, you face tariffs, you face sanctions, you face this, you face that, always doing, throwing threats somewhere, hurling insults, because you know why? It's the pride. They really think that they're not going to be taken down ever. Okay? Not knowing the average American citizen, not knowing that America is in the most weakened state it has ever been in. But the way that they're able to market themselves on the television, through these proud speeches like with the president and so on and so forth, they look strong. They sound strong. But America is very weakened right now. It says, no man buyeth her merchandise anymore. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and of pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all thyine wood and all manner of vessels of ivory and all manner of vessels of most precious wood and of brass and iron and marble and cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men, because we know these people are secretly into a lot of trafficking. All right, we'll say human trafficking. We'll just leave it at that. All right, I mean, that should be enough right there. Okay, so it says, and the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee. All right, living in your joyous mirth. All right, you're getting big business here and there, and different countries are actually getting big business off of America, and everybody's living comfortable. All right, the heathen nations, they're at ease. Zechariah 1. Okay, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things which were made rich by her, right? They're talking about the heathen nations, the other 16, right? The merchants of these things. All right, trade by sea and deals and things of that nature, cargo ships, which were made rich by her, by Babylon the Great, shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing. Why is that? Because they hate this place. So why are they crying over it? It's because the money is gone. The cash cow is burnt. All right, it's like that old Jay-Z song, when the money's gone, with a honey stay or something like that, and sunshine replaced the sunny day, or some crazy mess like that. I think y'all know the song I'm talking about. I'm not really good with songs and stuff. But yeah, that's how it is. They're okay with America for now, because they're prospering. All right, but it's going to come to a point where, the ultimate, which is going to be up to the Lord, is going to put in their mind the ultimate deal breaker, whatever it's going to be. The conclusions are going to be, you know what, we gotta melt this place. That's everybody's going to be in one accord, even their own allies. We gotta melt this place. So it says, and saying, alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. And yeah, America looks very alluring on the outside, but when you get here, you realize just how hard it is to really make it here. All right, unless you come over as some heathen with a little background. All right, or even if you don't have a little background, the heathens can just come, and build a life for themselves. And you're not saying the Israelite can't, But look at how hard it is for an Israelite to do so versus a heathen, right? Especially if you're an Edomite. For in 1 hour, so great riches is come to naught. Nothing, all right? And every shipmaster, all right, those same merchants, those same nations, right? And every shipmaster and all the company in ships, right? Talking about everything we talked about, trade agreements, deal, cargo ships, and all these different things, all right? All those different things that these different nations do with America, right? Company and ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? Yeah, what city was like America, Babylon the Great? There was no place like this. Okay. It says, and they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, alas, alas, that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. All right. And we're going to be happy. It says it here, rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for the Most High hath avenged you on her. Beautiful. All right. Now, just to make that real quick point before we close it off, because we mentioned that, we can go back to that last chapter there. Right. Yeah, right down here at the bottom. So Revelation 17. And I guess we'll read all of it. 14. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. All right. When you go to 2 Esdras 13, it's talking about after America is destroyed, those same heathen nations are going to want to fight one another for the rulership in the earth. That's when Yahushua is going to pop up, obviously because America was destroyed. So he's going to pop up. They're going to have to stop fighting whatever fight that they're fighting one against another. And they're all going to band together to fight Yahushua and the holy angels, right? These shall make war with the Lamb. And the Lamb, and that's how you understand that by going to 2 Esdras 13. It says, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with them are called and chosen and faithful. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, the other nations, all over the earth. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, right? This whole system that was put together, all right, made up of, the NATO and the EU, and America is leading the charge. Of course, you still got the Amalekites in the pocket, or actually America's in the pockets of the Amalekites, the Israelis. But anyways, those, that little system there. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. Who's the whore? America, Babylon the Great, Revelation 17:5 at the top of the chapter. All right, the west, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire, which we just read in Revelation the 18th chapter. For the Most High had put it in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. Yeah, they're vassals until the Lord wants them to finally do the job that he set them up for, which is to turn on America and nuke this place along with, the enemy nations, BRICS, which they're not innocent because they're enemies of America. That's just them on the world stage. We're not part of that of any side. We're with the Lord. All right. But these allies of America are going to eventually turn, because look how they treat their allies, man. They're bullies, man. And you see that oozing through Trump, okay? Mostly through Trump. Not saying it's Trump only, but especially with Trump, because he's very bold with things, all right? But you see that pride oozing, all right, through, the pride of America oozing through Trump, okay? You see how he handles things, how he talks, how he treats his own allies, all right? There's going to be something that the Lord's going to bring that's going to be too heavy to come back from. And that's when they're going to, turn on this place and melt it down. It says, and the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which is Babylon the Great, America the West, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. All right. And that's the end game for this place, man. All right. We're living in the end game. We're in the age, the season of Idumea, as it says in Revelation 20. And this is the last heathen to be in rulership before the kingdom of heaven is established, man. But I just want to hit a few verses there. We finished out the news. I think we're at the end of the news. All right. So. Shalom.
All right, so let's head to Switzerland, Davos Summit. We're listening to President Donald Trump, who's giving his second speech at the Global Business and Political Leaders event of 2025, where he did say earlier that America is back and is back in business. Let's just listen to Trump.
Nothing can destroy coal, not the weather, not a bomb, nothing. It might make it a little smaller, might make it a little different shape, but coal is very strong as a backup. It's a great backup to have that facility, and it wouldn't cost much more money. And we have more coal than anybody. We also have more oil and gas than anybody. So we're going to make it so that the plants will have their own electric generating facilities attached right to their plant. They don't have to worry about a utility. They don't have to worry about anything. And we're going to get very rapid approvals.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. President. We'll now go to another CEO that you know very well, Brian Moynihan, the CEO and chair of Bank of America.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, and congratulations and obviously eventful.
Well, in his address, Trump touched upon Russia-Ukraine war, the threat of steep tariffs, wars in the Middle East, and the rise of artificial intelligence. This is what he said earlier.
Going to ask Saudi Arabia and OPEC to bring down the cost of oil. You got to bring it down, which frankly, I'm surprised they didn't do before the election. That didn't show a lot of love by them not doing it. I was a little surprised by that. If the price came down, the Russia-Ukraine war would end immediately. Right now, the price is high enough that that war will continue. You got to bring down the oil price. You got to end that war. My message to every business in the world is very simple. Come make your product in America, and we will give you among the lowest taxes of any nation on earth. We're bringing them down very substantially, even from the original Trump tax cuts. But if you don't make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply you will have to pay a tariff, differing amounts, but a tariff which will direct hundreds of billions of dollars and even trillions of dollars into our treasury. Over the past 4 years, our government racked up $8 trillion in wasteful deficit spending and inflicted nation-wrecking energy restrictions, crippling regulations, and hidden taxes like never before. The result is the worst inflation crisis in modern history and sky-high interest rates for our citizens and even throughout the world.
All right, let's head back to Davos, where U.S. President Donald Trump is taking questions from the participants there. And this question has been asked by the CEO of Bank of America. Let's listen to Trump's response.
The one-year deduction, where we deduct, we did that originally, and that was amazing what the impact that had, the 1 year deduction, which built up over a period of time and then it expires. But we're going to go back to that when we do the renewal of the Trump tax plan. We have to get Democrats to approve it. But, if the Democrats didn't approve it, I don't know how they can survive with about a 45% tax increase, because that's what it would be. And so I think they're going to do. We've been working along with them pretty well. I think it's very hard for a political group to say, let's charge people 45% more. So I think we're in good shape, but we're actually doing a reduction for business and small businesses where you're going to bring it down to 15%, which is really something. And by the way, speaking of you, and you've done a fantastic job, but I hope you start opening your bank to conservatives, because many conservatives complain that the banks are not allowing them to do business within the bank, and that included a place called Bank of America. They don't take conservative business. And I don't know if the regulators mandated that because of Biden or what, but you and Jamie and everybody, I hope you're going to open your banks to conservatives, because what you're doing is wrong.
Mr. President, I'll say that your friend Gianni said hello, told me to tell you hello, and we look forward to sponsoring the World Cup when it comes, both this summer for the club and next year. So thank you for getting that for the United States.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll now go to Anna Butin. She's the executive chairman of Banco Santander, one of the big European banks, and also in the U.S. So, Anna.
Mr. President, congratulations on a historic victory. I believe you don't know me as well as my fellow panelists, so a few words. Santander is one of the largest banks in Europe.
Davos, welcome back to the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum. Humanitarian and military assistance while pushing.
The owner of a small restaurant is responsible if their food poisons customers. Social media tycoons should be held responsible in their algorithms poison our society. In short, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm proposing is that we take the fight for misinformation, hate speech. So let's take back control. Let's return digital platforms to their original purpose and transform them into safe and fair spaces for conversation. And let's stop those who want to turn them into a weapon for dismantling our democracies. In a nutshell, let's make social media great again. I know it won't be easy, I know. We are all scared because the people we are up against are extremely powerful. They have almost unlimited financial and technological resources and very dangerous allies, and they play dirty because they don't follow our moral rules and live in a world without consequences of their political ideologies and take both. But with all these gains also came huge downsides. Hidden in the bowels of the algorithms, like invaders concealed in the belly of a Trojan horse. We didn't realize it then, but we do know. We do know. Now